How should Blue Jays manager John Schneider write out his lineup to start the season? Hey everyone, welcome into Long Ball. Rob Long, joined alongside by Toronto Sun Blue Jays writer Rob Longley. And Rob, we're a couple of weeks into spring training. We've seen John Schneider work a few different players into the leadoff spot, whether it's Bo Bichette, Andres Gimenez, even Dalton Varsho at times. We know George Springer, of course, remains in the mix. But if the season were to start today, who are you penciling in to the leadoff spot in the order?
I don't know, Rob. It might just be me, but at this point, I love the idea of Bo Bichette as a leadoff hitter. I think a lot of other people do too. Now, there's a couple of caveats that are associated with that premise. The big one would be, of course, that he returns to the form that he had basically from 2021 to 2023, tossing out last year when he struggled both in form and in health. But here's a guy who led the league in hits for 2 years and almost for 3 consecutive years. He's a guy with some sneaky speed on the base paths. He's the kind of guy that really fits at the top of the order, especially with what you've got below him, and a guy who I think would really thrive in that position. I think if, in some ways, you can look at him as being the prototypical leadoff hitter, much the way George Springer was in the prime of his career. And I wouldn't be shocked if they gave the spot to Springer to start the season, but did so with a very short leash. I mean, we've seen the diminishing returns of him offensively the past 2 seasons, and with it so imperative to get a quick start, they're not going to have a whole lot of time to be patient with anybody who's struggling. So, for my way of thinking, why not just give it to Bo at the outset? He's been hitting hard and he's been hitting well throughout spring training already, which is showing some signs that whatever ailed him last year is behind him. And I think he would be an ideal guy for that spot.
Well, and I think, as we know, in modern day baseball, the prototypical quote unquote leadoff hitter doesn't really exist as much as it used to. We see a guy like Kyle Schwarber leading off for the Philadelphia Phillies, and he's not exactly that sort of slapping around speedy guy at the top of the order. So Bo Bichette definitely would be a great fit. So what hasn't changed, Rob, is you still have your boppers in the heart of the lineup. And as it stands right now, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. somewhere going to be in the 2-3 spot. We seem to have what we have seen so far in spring. Anthony Santander is going to be right behind him. You mentioned George Springer. Alejandro Kirk has had a really strong spring so far. How would you slot up the heart of the order if you're Blue Jays manager John Schneider right now?
Yeah, I kind of really like the order they're putting out there today, Thursday, at home against, I believe it's the Phillies they're facing, Rob, but with Bo at the top and Vlad right behind him and followed by Santander. And I think we're going to see all season, we're going to see it Vlad and Santander, whether it's 2-3 or 3-4. And then you've got George Springer, Andres Gimenez, and those 5 right at the top, and you could put Alejandro Kirk in there somewhere as well. Now, I'm not so sure that I want Vlad hitting 2. I think ideally you would have some separation there, that you'd have Bo at the top, and then maybe an Andres Gimenez if he can show any prowess with the bat at all, because we know what kind of speed that he has on the bases, and then get into Santander and Vlad, probably the other way around. And then see what you got, right? I think there could be some merit to dropping George Springer in the order down to the 5 or 6 spot, where he doesn't have to hit so much for contact and can hit a little bit more for power. Maybe you'd get a little bit more production out of him that way. But I like some of the experimentation that manager John Schneider has done throughout spring training. I think it's a sign that he's not locked into anything. And it's also a sign that he recognizes the urgency to get off to that quick start we were talking about.
Well, it's just spring training, but if you look at the stats so far, the offense has been clicking. So at least there's some positives that you can take so far out of the first couple of weeks, but still about 2.5 weeks before we get this whole thing started. Should be interesting to see how John Schneider continues to work with the lineup here over the remaining few weeks of spring training heading into the regular season. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Rob Longley, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.